Hi there, everybody. Once again, my name is Amanda Gordon, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Skin School. Today, we're going to focus on a very unique and specialized structure that we find in the very bottom layer of the epidermis that we've learned is called the stratum basale. Say hello to the melanocyte, and you can find between 1 and 2,000 of these little guys per square millimeter of skin. Now, the melanocyte's sole purpose is to produce a pigment called melanin, which the skin uses as its primary defense mechanism. So, what is melanin? Melanin is the pigment that creates our individual skin tone. Everybody produces melanin, but the color of our skin is determined by the actual concentration of how much melanin we produce. There are two different types of melanin that get produced from the melanocytes. The first one is called eumelanin, and it is responsible for the browner hues. Pheomelanin, on the other hand, creates more of the reddish tones. So, for example, people that have darker skin tones and darker hair colors would have an excess concentration of eumelanin, but people with red hair and lighter skin tones are going to have more pheomelanin. Melanocytes tend to be darker in color, and they have little dendrites that extend from the main body of the structure, sort of like you would find in an octopus or a squid. The melanocytes use these dendrites to inject pigment into the cell, where it covers over the top of the nucleus to shield and protect our genetic material, or our DNA. So let's take a quick look at how a pigment granule is actually produced inside of a melanocyte cell. A couple of things must be present in order for a pigment granule to be formed. The first thing is called tyrosine. The second thing, when added to tyrosine, is called the tyrosinase enzyme. And when you add these two things together, a chemical reaction takes place, and boom, you have a pigment cell. So, think of it kind of like baking a cake. If you have all of your ingredients together, but you're missing your baking soda, the cake's not going to rise in the oven. It's just going to be flat and gooey. So, just like baking a cake, you must have all of the necessary ingredients in order for a pigment granule to be formed. So for people out there looking to lighten their skin, brighten the skin, reduce scarring and pigmentation that they might already have, there are ways to do that through the use of tyrosinase enzyme inhibitors. Now, these are ingredients that are found in a variety of products on the market today that will actually stop the pigment from being formed by inhibiting the tyrosinase enzyme, so it can't bind with the tyrosine and no pigment can be formed. The most popular of these ingredients that you'll find in a wide variety of products on the market today are hydroquinone, kojic acid, arbutin, azelaic acid, and L-ascorbic acid, better known as vitamin C. All of these are tyrosinase enzyme suppressors or inhibitors, so it prevents the formation of new pigment. There are two main ways that melanin gets triggered to produce in the body. The first is UV light or sun exposure. The second one is an injury to the skin. Whenever our skin gets exposed to UV light, the melanocytes are triggered to produce pigment, inject it into the cell, and cover the nucleus. Also, whenever we experience trauma or an injury to the skin, the brain automatically triggers the melanocytes to produce pigment, inject those into the cell in order to protect that specific area of skin. Just like anything else in the body, occasionally our melanocytes can go a little haywire. So now I'd like to take a quick peek at a few skin conditions that can develop when these melanocytes lose their minds. The first one we're going to talk about is called vitiligo. Now, these are patches of the skin over varying parts of the body where there is simply an absence of melanocytes. No melanocytes, no pigment can be produced. So these are usually white patches on the skin pictured here. Next, we have albinism. We've all heard this term, or albino, and this is a condition where the melanocytes simply do not produce pigment. They never have, they never will. Next up, we have melasma. We've all probably either experienced having melasma or known somebody that's had it at some point in our lives. Sometimes it can be caused by sun damage, but generally this condition is caused by hormonal imbalances. A lot of times you'll see this in women during pregnancy, and the hormonal imbalances will cause something called the pregnancy mask. And generally it forms across the cheekbones, under the eyes, and it's a lighter colored pigmentation that generally will fade out after the baby is born and the hormones return to normal. But you don't necessarily have to just be pregnant to experience melasma. Lots of times men and women both experience hormonal imbalances that can create this disruption in pigmentation. Let's take a look now at the melanocystic nevus, commonly known as a birthmark. This is simply an overproduction of pigmentation in one localized area of the skin. Nothing to worry about. As you can see here, it's just a small collection of melanin just under the surface of the skin. Now, unlike birthmarks, moles or nevuses are a collection of melanocytes that push up through the surface of the skin, forming a palpable bump. Now, birthmarks and moles usually are fine, but it's when these collections of melanocytes under the skin start to grow out of control that you need to start being concerned. These are what we call melanoma, which are responsible for skin cancer. Generally, there are some A, B, C, Ds that we use to evaluate a melanoma. A stands for asymmetrical. Are the edges ragged and uneven? B, the borders. Do they look jagged and inflamed? C stands for color. Does the color of your mole start to change over time? And D, the diameter. Is it getting larger? All of these are possible indicators of skin cancer or melanoma and should always be immediately checked out by a licensed dermatologist. Okay, everybody, that's our little friend, the melanocyte. I hope you've enjoyed this video, learned a few things. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for new videos coming soon from Skin School. Have a great day.